Welcome to This Ready to Craft. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Readi-Board to create some beautiful beadwork. I happened upon these beads while I was shopping for other craft supplies, and I thought it would make a beautiful bee project. So I used the length of the bead to determine how big I would need to make a bee. This helps me determine what size frame I will need, and therefore how big of a piece of foam board I need to start with. I printed out a hexagon shape just to use as a guide, and I'm using a light layer of rubber cement to attach it to my foam board. I'm just going to extend the lines of this outside edge. You can see my bead technically fits on the inside, but I'm going to actually use the outside edge that I just drew as my inside edge, just to give myself a little bit more working room. Which means I'm going to need to measure my outside edge and draw that in. Once I have my lines drawn, I'll use my hobby knife to cut out the shape. Once you have removed the interior piece, set it aside. We're going to use it later. Now, I'm going to attach my fabric to my foam board. This is just a remnant piece that I found that has a nice loose weave, but also is a little stiff. Plain regular cotton can work as well. I expect the glue to bleed through my fabric, so I'm putting an extra piece of foam board underneath to protect my table. I'm spreading the glue to make sure I get all of the edges. Then flip and press down. By using the white glue, I've given myself a little bit of time to tug on the fabric and get it nice and tight. Then I'll use sewing pins to keep it in place while it dries. While the glue is drying, I'm going to begin tracing my reference image. This is just some wax paper. Using different colored permanent markers is going to make the project go smoother further on. Now that the glue is dried completely, we can remove our pins. I prefer to work with clean edges, so I'm going to trim away the excess fabric. Now we're going to fit the template that we made into the hexagon. I'm being very gentle with my hobby knife here. You don't want to cut through the fabric. If you are not confident in your knife skills, you can always trace the hexagon with a marker and cut it out that way. I cut off a little bit from the top and the bottom to allow my tape somewhere to go. It is a little hard to tell on camera, but it's very easy to see the template through the fabric. Now we can begin beading. The first step, and maybe the hardest, is threading the needle. I tried using the little tool that came with the needles, and it broke. So instead I tried the old-fashioned way. Naturally, as soon as I turned off the camera, I managed to get the thread through the needle the first try. To lock your needle onto your thread, I suggest looping back and putting your needle through the center of your thread, a little ways down. Then pulling taut. This way you don't have to worry about losing your needle mid-project. I'm utilizing my first bead as an anchor, knotting the thread behind it. I found that dabbing a little bit of super glue onto your knots really helps them keep strong. Once that first one is in, you just keep beading. Think about the thickness of your beads while you're deciding where to come up through the fabric. I come up through the fabric, get my bead approximately where I would like it, and then go back down through the fabric. In general, the sequence goes as such. You bring the needle up through the back of the fabric, thread a bead onto it, place it, and then put the needle back down through the fabric. And then you come up on your next hole. Sometimes it is more effective to thread multiple beads at once. You can see here that I'm putting 3 beads on initially. And added a 4th, just to make it to the end of this line. To make sure those beads stay in place, I'm going to push the needle very close to the thread between them. Loop around to the other side of the thread and push the needle down, basically locking the thread in place. Whenever possible, I found it easier to work from the center outwards. Using a variety of beads will give your project depth and interest. Just like the rest of my project, I'm just winging this part. As you work through your project, you will probably find things that work well for you and things that don't. That's all part of the learning process. This was the first beading project I ever attempted. Even if you make some mistakes, which I definitely did in this project, nobody's going to notice it on the final product. Now that I'm done beading, I can remove my template. You can see in some of the denser areas, some of the template still remains. As long as I can't see it from the front, I don't mind. To make sure all my threads stay in place, I'm applying glue to the back of my project. While that is drying, we're going to get that centerpiece that we set aside earlier. I'm going to use this to create the finishing frame for my project. To make sure the original frame is covered, I'm going to add a little bit of extras to the inside. I'm being a little bit more careful while cutting out this inside. You can see some of the fabric started to peel up from being handled so much. That's okay, we can just trim it away. Using my white glue again, I'm going to attach the finishing frame to my project. And adjust to make sure it's perfect. Allow that to dry completely before hanging. Even with the weight of the beads, the project is lightweight and easy to hang. If you try this craft out, we'd love to see it. Our social media links can be found in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If there's a foam board craft that you would like to see a ready to craft of, let us know in the comments.